anything a werewolf hates, it's a giant. Especially two-headed giant, because the rules don't make sense. This is the Judge Tower podcast. My name is Jan. We're on episode 5, and with me is, once again, Sam, blue-white control player, Cephalus.
It's true. Many true statements. Blue-white, good deck. Two-headed giant, hell of a format.
Hell of a format.
We are also joined today by a special guest, the Luke from Calgary.
Oh, I'm probably in the wrong room.
Are you racist? Are you racist?
I hope not.
Oh, then you're fine.
Then you're fine.
Oh,
yeah.
That's good.
We take those.
So, today's episode, we're gonna talk about some Innistrad Midnight Hunt cards. But before we get into that, Luke, well, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
I'm a human, usually. I play Magic. I like Judge Tower. It's a pretty cool format. I got into it, I think, from the same way that you two did, from a bead, right?
A bead.
The judging, yeah.
One of the local judge dads in the Calgary area.
Yeah, I'm also an L1 judge. I've known Mr. Sam and Mr. Jan for a good amount of time.
So one interesting thing I wanted to talk about from your little intro there is that you do get +3/+3 and indestructible from Flare of Faith. That is.
Yeah, I do.
I'm very glad you specified that you are in fact a human because it's relevant and on brand.
Yeah, the indestructible is it's a little busted. I think being indestructible has helped me a lot in various dodgeball scenarios, but.
Someone has drafted the set way too much.
I wish my Judge Tower was indestructible when I loan it out to people.
What a segue.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's literally why I'm here.
Yeah, not gonna lie, the last 3 weeks I just haven't played a ton of Magic. Actually, 3 weeks before last week. Whatever. For a period of time I did not.
That's way too much thinking for me.
Yeah. For a period of time, I did not play a lot of Magic, but I just lent a friend the Judge Tower, and man, that's just a whole lot of value. Which is another great thing about Judge Tower. It's just you can just give it to whoever that you trust, and then they can just have a really nice time playing a bunch of cards that never see play.
Yeah, you're getting value while you're not even there, and especially like you said, if you trust that person to take care of your cards and just have a good time with it, then low risk. Especially if your Judge Tower doesn't have that much monetary value in it, like some might not, right?
That's true.
I've never loaned out my tower.
You should try it.
Well, see, here's the thing. No one's ever asked.
True.
So
just
I don't really know what that's supposed to mean, but
I have loaned out my tower. Oftentimes it's when I'm judging a big event, I'll leave it with someone and then they'll just play it in between rounds with whoever shows up. But I have lent it to people. It's hard for me to lend it to people right now because I literally just don't know where it is. That's great.
Ooh, that's pretty cringe, my guy.
Oh,
but I did play a 1K recently. I was in the final, humble brag, and my Judge Tower was being played right beside me, and I just felt bad because they were having more fun than me.
Yeah, you're sitting there in the finals. You're you hear cool interactions. You try not to look over.
It was pretty cringe. So
yeah.
But that's okay. They had fun, and then they had more fun after that. So
Absolutely.
So let's hop into the main topic here. The cards from Innistrad Midnight Hunt.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm not much of a limited player, but lately on Arena, I've been drafting a lot of Midnight Hunt. And good format, but as I see these cards kind of come up, I can't help myself just to think about how they would work in Judge Tower and certain cards I want to pick up.
Very much so.
And Luke also has added some cards to his Judge Tower. Have you had any success with them so far? Or?
I would have if I had played Tower, since I added them.
True.
Pretty sure I've literally just played your Tower.
We did hit a couple of the new cards. But let's head into the first topic here. Day Night.
Yeah, so Day Night is really interesting and pretty weird. It works differently than a lot of things we've seen. Similar things. Typically, the old werewolves, Huntmaster of the Fells, will flip as a result of a triggered ability at the beginning of each upkeep. Day and night do not work in that way. It is a turn-based effect, I believe, that happens in the untap step before phasing occurs.
After phasing.
After phasing occurs before you untap. And then as with anything that would trigger in the upkeep, if anything happens to trigger off of the day-night cycle, then it just gets moved to the upkeep.
So if you're not lost yet, hopefully you will be when you play Judge Tower.
True.
Or if you play Two-Headed Giant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's day-night. The circadian rhythm of Magic is not very well set up for Two-Headed Giant in that to
No.
make it night, neither player may cast a spell, and to make it day, one head must cast two. It can't be 1 and 1.
Yeah, which it's difficult to make happen for sure. As far as Judge Tower is concerned, what happens and who loses if the day-night cycle is misrepresented or missed? Well, the answer is everyone. Everyone loses because A, weird mechanic, and it's just difficult, and B, it is a game state that is the responsibility of everyone to maintain.
This is why Day Night is pretty good in Judge Tower, because once a card that makes it day or night gets played, it has to be tracked for the rest of the game, regardless of if any more day or night cards get played. Mainly because cards with Nightbound enter if it's night, or enter on that side if it is night. So you always have to track it, which is both flavorful and a pain. So
Yes. They do make for some really good Judge Tower cards, though, for sure. We have here one really good example: Curse of Leeches. It is 2 and a black. On its daybound side, it is an enchantment or a curse, reading enchant player. As this permanent transforms into Curse of Leeches, attach it to a player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, they lose 1 life and you gain 1 life, and it has daybound. Its nightbound side is a 4/4 Leech Horror with lifelink. So this one is really interesting and even unique within this unique mechanic where it transforms into a different permanent type. And luckily, they designed the card so that it functions. And as it transforms, it's not a trigger, as it would transform to an aura if it enters on its nightbound side, or if it just becomes nightbound, it attaches itself to a player.
That also happens during the untap step, correct? That doesn't wait until upkeep.
That's correct. Yeah. Then it'll be transformed for the upkeep. So this card has a lot going on. It at the very least, it has the upkeep trigger, and it goes deeper than that when you start getting into the daybound, nightbound, transforming into a different permanent type, all that.
yeah, very good card here. The next card, the Celestis, 3 mana legendary artifact. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. You can pay 3 mana and tap it. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. Activate only as a sorcery. And then, as a triggered ability, whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life. You may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This card is an actual novel. There's just a lot going on with it. First off, it makes it day, so it starts the whole day-night cycle. It has this weird activated ability that you'll never activate because it only activates as a sorcery, and you're always making mana on your upkeep. So that's something that might get someone who doesn't read the card very carefully. And it has a triggered ability that specifically says when day becomes night or night becomes day. So someone might use that trigger when they play the Celestis, but it's not becoming day from night. It's simply becoming day. So another thing to watch out for when you play the Celestis, and it's just a pain to keep track of.
And those effects are really interesting too. Like the cards without daybound and nightbound themselves, like the non-werewolves that still care about the day-night cycle, and when they enter, they begin the cycle. They're really interesting. Often will have some sort of triggered ability or some sort of relevance to when it would become day or night. For example, Sunstreak Phoenix here is a 2 red creature Phoenix, 4/2 with flying. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as Sunstreak Phoenix enters the battlefield. And it has a triggered ability that reads whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you may pay 1 in a red. If you do, return Sunstreak Phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Now, in Judge Tower, you have a shared graveyard, as we know. So that means everyone will have to put this trigger onto the stack, and the person that is last in turn order will end up with the bird in play. So if not everyone chooses to kind of realizes what's going on, as soon as usually the second person does, everyone's like, oh, okay. But if someone happens to miss it or chooses not to put it on the stack, that's a good way to get someone.
Also, just things that are active in the graveyard are always good in Judge Tower.
Absolutely, yeah, especially like things get milled, discarded. You won't always have seen them before they would become relevant.
Yes.
Indeed.
Also, it's a Phoenix that doesn't have haste.
Yeah, that's true.
Ooh, true.
And it enters tapped. Like, there's just so many ways to get them.
Absolutely. Now, so that was day night. We have another complicated-ish mechanic. We have Coven, which cares about the controller of the Coven source having 3 or more different powers amongst creatures they control. Now, there's 2 ways Coven is engaged with from the perspective of a Magic player. The first is a triggered ability that triggers when you have Coven, and then there's activated abilities. Now, the triggered abilities read as intervening if triggers, such that the trigger only goes on the stack if you meet the Coven requirement and will only resolve if you would meet the Coven requirement as the trigger would resolve. However, the activated abilities only require Coven upon activation of that ability. So if you put the ability on the stack and then you somehow lose Coven, then the ability will still resolve.
Yeah, very important difference between the two, but intervening ifs are always something that you need to look out for, especially in the case of normal judge calls. It happens quite often, so just good training overall for that kind of thing.
So it might not be something that comes up super often in Judge Tower, but certainly judging it pre-release, I had more than one player assume that powers meant abilities.
Okay, no lie, I was so confused the first time I read Coven.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of powers are they talking about? Like, oh, this is gonna be some real spicy stuff. Oh, you mean attack value? Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's not multiple powers amongst creatures are not often something that's relevant. Like you see effects like Swords to Plowshares, which care about the power of one creature, but it's usually pretty clear about that. Coven, I could see the misinterpretation or misunderstanding.
The word
Sure.
powers can be misleading.
Yes, absolutely.
Because vigilance is a power. First strike. That's pretty powerful.
It can be, absolutely.
It sure is.
So we look at Augur of Autumn. Now, this is actually a static ability in the form of Coven, which I believe is unique to the Coven cards. I can't think of another one. Augur of Autumn is a 1 green human druid creature. It's a 2/3. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play lands from the top of your library. Coven, as long as you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, you may cast spells. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. So this is one that's neither a triggered ability or an activated ability that does care about Coven, and it can definitely get people if you're used to just being able to cast these creature spells and then not having Coven. You might slip up there for sure.
You ever want to live the dream of drawing 2 cards off a Fibblethip? This card will help you do it.
Oh, that's gas.
It's really good.
That's actually gasoline.
Augur of Autumn is the only one with a static Coven ability.
And then we have Might of the Old Ways, which is a instant. So it's a 1 green instant that reads target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Coven, then if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, draw a card. So this is Coven on a spell that cares about having Coven as the spell would resolve. But specifically, this Coven cares about the powers amongst your creatures after the +2/+2 is applied. So if I have a board with a 1/1, a 2/2, and another 2/2, and then I Might of the Old Ways one of my 2/2s, obviously it becomes a 4/4, and then I would be able to draw a card with Might of the Old Ways. But if I were to lose Coven by giving something +2/+2, such that I make something big enough or as big as another creature, and then I lose Coven, I would not draw a card even though I had Coven as this card started to resolve.
Something that's easy to mess up if you're not paying full attention.
Absolutely.
Also, just pumped spells in general
Yeah.
might mess with Coven memory issues. So Coven's just like a really cool, unique mechanic that I'm sure we'll never see again. But
Great for Judge Tower.
excellent for Judge Tower. Forgotten mechanics are incredible for the format. Haunt being one of them.
We have some other good cards here. Just from the set, moving on from just Coven and Daybound and Nightbound now. Just some other good cards for Judge Tower. One of my personal favorites from the new set. Gisa, Glorious Resurrector. It's a 2/black 4/4 legendary creature, human wizard. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So it's a powerful replacement effect. Then it has a triggered ability. At the beginning of your upkeep, put all creature cards exiled with Gisa, Glorious Resurrector onto the battlefield under your control. They gain Decayed. So now Decayed is a mechanic that reads this creature can't block, and when it attacks, sacrifice it at the beginning of or at the end of combat step. Decayed can be forgotten for sure. Gisa would probably get me in Judge Tower. I've tried to block with a Decayed creature from Gisa in draft because I'm used to literally just the 2/2 zombie tokens having Decayed, and it's hard to mark, hard to represent.
One might say like impossible to represent in paper. It's just something that you have to remember.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll put these cards aside.
Yeah.
Also, I have also played this card in draft, and my stupid, smooth, idiot brain went to block a 4/4 with Gisa. I'm like, I'm going to get this back. No, dummy. You need this card on the battlefield for the trigger to go onto the stack. So don't forget that.
Yep. Moving on. Next, we have Lear, Disciple of the Drowned. 3 blue, 3/4 legendary human wizard. Spells can't be countered. Each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. The flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. So again, we have the shared graveyards, so everything will have flashback for everybody. And notably, the spells can't be countered text is relevant because some Judge Towers, mine included and Jan's included, and I believe Luke's included as well, do play counter spells. And it's a really good learning opportunity to learn that you can target an uncounterable spell with a counter spell. It just does nothing when it would resolve.
Indeed.
Also, for you standard players out there, all like 2 of you, the effect is symmetrical. So don't go putting counter spells in your Lear deck.
Yes.
Unless you want to get got by yourself.
The next card we've got is Lisa, the Forgotten Archangel, which is a 2 white black 4/5 legendary creature angel. It has flying and lifelink, and whenever another non-token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And if a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. So we see the replacement effect, the same one from Gisa happening again, something you got to keep in mind. It also creates a delayed triggered ability when other non-token creatures you control die, which is, that could be hard to remember. If a lot of things happen in a turn and one thing died previously and you just leave it in the graveyard, I could definitely see myself getting got by that.
What's interesting about this card to me and Gisa is the templating of the replacement effect is different on the card. They both have triggers, but the replacement effect is listed at the top of the text box on Gisa, but then at the bottom on Lisa, which not really Judge Tower related, but something I found a bit interesting. Might trip some people up if you just have both.
I didn't even really notice that.
Yeah.
Gisa does have a triggered ability related to the exiling, so they probably want to put that up front.
One would say linked.
Wow. One might say linked. One might say Zelda.
Oh,
man, that was bad. Hey, did you know
that was really bad?
Randomly, did you know Worldbreaker has reach? That's incredible. They basically put the word reach under the collector information on the card.
Listen,
That's how low.
every green creature has reach until proven otherwise.
It's true. It's true.
Now, a green creature without reach
That
is
we don't know.
that we don't. Sereth the Viper's Fang is a 2/green. Looks like a snake, but it's actually a human warlock. It's a 3/4 legend. Other tapped creatures you control have Death Touch. Other untapped creatures you control have Hexproof. Activated ability: 1 tap, untap another target creature or land you control. Just a lot to take care of here and keep track of. Reminds me a bit of Masako in that it just stuff just kind of is happening and applying to your creatures, and it has a weird activated ability that for some reason can untap a land even though the card only cares about creatures. Like, just a lot to keep track of.
This card also reminds me of Oak Street Innkeeper.
Yes.
That beauty of a card. Also worth noting, it says other for both tapped and untapped creatures you control. This will not have Death Touch or Hexproof, no matter what state it is in.
Honestly, kind of weird, especially with the snake imagery. Like, shouldn't it itself have Death Touch when there's literally snakes featured with the character?
Probably. I mean, I'm just surprised it's not a snake itself.
I'm just surprised that this doesn't have reach.
True.
Moving on. We have this next card, Curse of Surveillance. 4 and a blue for an enchantment or a curse. Enchant player. At the beginning of enchanted player's upkeep, any number of target players other than that player each draw cards equal to the number of curses attached to that player. I stopped reading the card halfway through.
So curses are great because it puts the permanent physically, like usually the way players will represent a curse is by putting it on the cursed player's board state. So if you curse somebody else, it is still your trigger to remember on their upkeep, and the permanent is on their side. So it's just another thing that you have to keep track of. People are drawing cards, not too many cards. It's healthy for the format, and just definitely just a trigger that you got to remember. And multiple curses can affect it, especially since curses aren't super common. If you've had a curse of surveillance running for a while and another curse just happens to exist, people might forget that they need to draw 2.
You know, it's a pretty good synergistic card in Judge Tower for this one.
What's that?
Curse of Leeches. It's only
True.
sometimes a curse.
True. Yeah, that's actually sweet.
So I definitely think if you're going to add one of those two, you should add the other.
This card makes you want to add Overwhelming Splendor to Judge Tower, because it's a curse without the word curse in it. I just want to try and get people that way. It might be going too far, but...
That might be a little deep. Our next card, and maybe our last card, is Sludge Monster, which is a 3 and 2 blue creature horror. It is a 5/5. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, put a slime counter on up to 1 other target creature. Non-horror creatures with slime counters on them lose all abilities and have base power and toughness 2/2. So I think the original design of this card was to put the slime counters on your 2/2 decayed zombie tokens, so then they can now block and attack and not die. But it can be pretty decent in Judge Tower to put a counter on something that, you know, has text and then won't anymore.
So the other day, I don't know who I was talking with about this. It was one of you two. My memory's terrible though. But we were talking about like the card Gutter Grime. I think I was with Luke.
Yeah, I think I was definitely there. Sam might have also been present. But yeah, Gutter Grime is the only other card in Magic that uses slime counters.
and like we were just trying to come up with ways of like how do we use Gutter Grime to put counters onto creatures, or maybe we could make Gutter Grime a creature, but then it would lose its abilities.
It would actually be really good to. I would very much enjoy to not be the person who had a creature Gutter Grime and then had to deal with the Sludge Monster interaction.
Well, it would lose its triggered ability, but the oozes have this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of slime counters on Gutter Grime ability.
Yes.
So it would just be like, but anyway.
So Sludge Monster is interesting. I once again punted in draft. Wow. Common theme here. I suck at draft. So I assumed that the slime counter itself, like being given a slime counter, was the same as losing your abilities and becoming a 2/2. What I did not register and pick up on was the fact that Sludge Monster was the one with the static ability applying those. So it doesn't literally just Oko something. The Sludge Monster has to stick around in order to apply the debuff or the buff, I guess, in some situations.
Yeah, it's a slightly different thing to something like a card from Zendikar, Obsidian Fireheart, which gives lands a blaze counter, but it specifically says for as long as that land has a blaze counter on it, it deals damage to the owner of the land. And it even says it continues to burn after Obsidian Fireheart has left the battlefield, which, by the way, is the best reminder text of all time in Magic. No cap.
Oh, I can think of some. There's some pretty good reminder texts.
I like the reminder text on state-based actions.
Rules lawyer?
Indeed.
That's always a good one. I still maintain, we all still maintain that that the judge rules lawyer should not have had any reminder text whatsoever.
I agree.
So Watsy, you can write this wrong.
Or maybe Judge. I don't actually know who makes the judge promos.
Whoever is in charge, you can write this wrong. It's
Alright.
on you.
Warrior's Oath
Okay.
has the best reminder text. It's red sorcery. Take another turn after this one. At the end of that turn, you lose the game. Reminder text: you don't lose if you've already won.
Thanks.
Oh, God.
I wasn't sure.
I would put this card in Judge Tower if it wasn't prohibitively expensive for being a Portal 3 Kingdoms card.
Yes.
What's the other one? Riding the Dailu Horse or whatever?
Riding the Delu horse, indeed. That card I have played with in Judge Tower, but not my own Judge Tower.
Yes.
I know actually, shout out again to Abid, the judge that certified both me and Sam on the same day, in fact, kind of.
The second time, yeah.
Yeah, the second time. Was gifted a Riding the Delu horse for his Judge Tower.
That's incredible.
It is a card that you have to remember.
Yes.
I kind of want to 1v1 a bead just to prove who can play Judge Tower more
The
painfully.
worst?
The worst?
Yeah. The least optimally, perhaps?
We gotta set up a specific Judge Tower with like Beck and Call and Thousand Year Storm and all the painful
All
cards.
the horrible cards.
I can't wait to not be in that game.
No, you're just observing, you know?
Sure. I'll judge
Yeah,
it.
because you're gonna need like a couple people to watch and make sure that nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, a few judges, comp and everything. Competitive
You
REL
played at
Judge
Comp
Tower.
REL?
Yep.
We can figure this out. Professional REL.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a swear. Gonna have to bleep that out.
oh,
Anyway.
my bad.
Good fight.
Anyway, what have we learned today? We've learned that
I suck at drafting.
Sam, terrible at drafting. No, you're fine at drafting. You just suck at playing the game.
Wow.
There's
Oh
a
my
difference.
god.
All your draft decks are great. You just punt.
True.
We've learned that I'm a terrible human being who calls their friends terrible. And we've learned that there are some pretty good Judge Tower cards in Innistrad Midnight Hunt.
Wow. Didn't learn anything about me?
You get buffed by Flare of Faith.
Right.
Yes.
You're indestructible.
Fantastic.
You are no longer this podcast's friend that goes to another school.
I'm just the exchange student?
Something like that.
We've attached a voice
Yeah,
to
good
the
enough.
name. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, thank you for listening. If you want to reach us, we're on Twitter at Judge Towercast. Sam streams sometimes at twitch.tv/humblegreek. Luke, if we want to reach you, do you want to be reached?
You can find me at FNM, I guess.
Oh.
All right, FNM. He's going to be drafting, probably.
I'll be there.
I'll be there. So, with that, thank you for listening, and we'll have a good one. So, what are your guys' favorite video games?
I'm a huge fan of existing, personally.
I like Hollow Knight. That card.
Hollow Knight's good.
Hollow Knight's
That
good.
card's Hollow Knight's a really good card.
I'm just used to saying that.
That card is gas.
The card is gas.
When are we getting the Hollow Knight Secret Lair?
Dude. Oh god, how to make Luke broke.
Yeah, dude, I'll buy that.
You guys excited for the Fortnite Secret Lair?
Oh, the Secret Lairs are okay. You guys remember that like really controversial article, like this product is not for you?
Yep.
I am happy enough that these secret layers are existing, as long as the cards coming out of them are not.
Mechanically unique and
Well,
hard to get.
Yeah, like the Walking Dead, like I think Secret Lair and supplemental products like this, where it's only premium content, should really be just reprints of other cards, and we've seen a lot of that in the Secret Lairs and a lot of that in the newer ones, but some of these different ones, like the collaborative ones, I guess, with other stuff, can be problematic and can make cards really inaccessible, especially for commander players. And if something happens to be legacy playable, then oh boy.
Then it's over. Oh, it's like almost like Nexus of Fate.
Yeah,
Indeed.
that was a thing.
I'm glad they've done away with exclusive buy box promos.
Yeah, Nexus of Fate was not only was it impossible to find.
It was impossible to find
Play.
a flat copy.
It was also
Yeah.
impossible to sleeve and put in my 75.
Yeah, it's one of the few cards that in Magic that would allow for a proxy just for being not printed in non-foil.
That is also modern legal because there's a bunch of commander ones, but
Yeah, but like in Legacy, the only one that was really ever relevant was Kess.
indeed.
Yeah.
But now you can get Kess
I
thanks
have.
to
Modern
Modern
Horizons.
Horizons.
that one.
Yeah. So everyone who was banking on having a proxy, now you gotta just buy it.
Man, remember the Brawl commander decks or whatever?
The Brawl decks, yeah.
The Brawl decks. In my one time playing Standard, with Doom Foretold, I had a copy of Alila in my sideboard, and
That's
I could
the
have
Esper Fairy, right?
That's the Esper Fairy one, and I could have gotten away with getting a proxy, except
If it weren't for you meddling kids.
Wizards of the Coast, man, did what, set boosters or whatever, or like
Collector
boosters?
boosters.
And they had a non-foil copy of all of the commanders in those Brawl decks. So I had to literally not play the card because there was a non-foil printing that was impossible to find. That was twice as expensive as the foil copy. That's insanity.
Oh, that's great.
So I played Narset instead.
Ah,
Like a degenerate. Never came
Well,
up.
how will you ever survive?
Oh, I was just really disappointed.